Hi guys, if it's Tuesday, it's Down and Dirty Woodcraft. Stay with me. Okay, today guys, we're going to talk about something that I don't get to use a lot down here, but I have used it. In my jobs that I've had over the years where I traveled around the country a lot, I'd end up in places where this tarp technique was invaluable. And what it is you need to make a shade to be out in the bare sun. Now, let us pretend today that we are in the bare sun and not heavily overcast where it's raining every 5 minutes and we're in a forest. Suppose we're out in someplace open. If I've got two solid anchor points, these can be poles, these can be fences, this can be a vehicle hooking to something else, whatever. I have two solid anchor points. The ability to tie out a tarp, staking it or by weights, I can generate a shade that is superior to just the tarp itself. Now let me set this up and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Stay with me. Okay, what you're seeing here is a tarp doubled in half. The corner grommet, the middle grommet, the corner grommet, the middle grommet, staked down as if it was a half of your tarp. That's the first half. The other half is doubled up. We're going to move around in a minute and go into a second ridge line up here. Now, there's a physics reason for this. This creates an area big enough for you to lay down. There's an air gap underneath, as you can see, and that's intentional, so that air can flow underneath. What I've made is the equivalent of two tarps one tarp doing the job of two. Ideally, I would do this with two tarps, but let me explain what I'm doing. I'm creating a sun shade, okay? There's a difference between a shadow and a shade. A shade implies that it captures the long wave solar radiation, the heat, and stops it. A shade merely makes it dark where you're at. Pine trees produce shade. They do not stop that long wave radiation, so the temperature in their shadow is relatively low comparatively. There's no temperature change. However, if you're up underneath an oak tree or some other broad leaf, there is a distinct cooler shade, and it's because the long wave radiation is being reflected or captured by those broad leaves and not allowed to come onto you. So, with just putting up a single layer of a tarp, I have created a sunshade to a point, but it's a shade. Excuse me, it's a shadow. The sun is hitting it, and as it does so, it's heating up the tarp. That long wave radiation, let's say due to its UV qualities, let's say it's blocking 50% of that long wave heat radiation. So it should be 50% less getting through. But that other 50% just doesn't disappear into the universe. It's absorbed by this tarp, and this tarp gets hot in the sun. And you know this with anything you live in the sun, even a styrofoam cup. When you pick it up and it's been in the sun a while, it's warm to the touch because it's absorbing that long wave radiation. So me being underneath here trying to get out of the sun with just a single layer, that heat will radiate from this into me. So I'm still getting like 80% of the heat. Yes, it's stopping the long wave radiation, but then it's radiating that heat onto me. So there's got to be a better way, and there is. Now let me show you how we do this. Okay, we have our first ridge line and then our second ridge line. And as you can see, it's created a gap between the two tarps. Now what's going to happen here is this. Let me adjust this a second. The solar radiation is going to come and hit this tarp, and it's going to heat this tarp up. But there's a gap between it. As it tries to radiate the heat to this side, that's going to cause an updraft air current, which is going to suck cooler in from the corners into it. So my solar radiation hits this tarp, heats up this tarp, and only 50% come through with the long radiation of this. Where it hits another tarp, where it again absorbs 50%. So what gets through here is about 20%. So this is great deal cooler than it would be if I was just using a single layer of a tarp. As you can see here, they're divided. And what's happening is the outer tarp is going to capture the solar heat and radiate it up. This is going to cause a convection current rising up between the two to come out the top, sucking cooler air in at the bottom the whole time. Now, this suction is going to draw cooler air to me, so when I'm up underneath that tarp on that side, air will flow underneath due to this updraft to me. So there's going to be a little bit of a air movement, not necessarily a true breeze, but a little bit of an air movement moving up. And therefore, I'm going to have more insulation from solar, and I'm also going to have a greater chance of more air movement around me because of being underneath this. As you can see, all I've done is fold my tarp in half. I set it up to begin with this ridgeline corner, run down to the middle grommet, staked it, went and did all four like that, and I folded this other half up and attached it to the second ridgeline where it's attached, and then I put a stake out here in the middle as a toggle to hold up the center. This creates the second layer. Very simple. There's enough room for me to stretch out under there. So, why do this? For whatever reason, you find yourself in a situation where there is no shade. I have a tarp and I have 2 anchor points. If I put up a single layer tarp, that's better than nothing and it's good. But if I do it like this and double it, I've doubled my insulation value and I've doubled my ability to create a true shade versus a shadow. Okay? I'm already going to be sweating, I know that. I'm already going to be baking out here. We know that. But I'm going to do the best I can, and by doing this trick, I'm greatly reducing how much solar radiation is actually making it to me. How much thermal radiation is making it to me. The outer layer back here, which will be facing toward the sun, is going to take the bulk of the thermal radiation. It's going to heat up from the sun, and then it's going to radiate it up as an air current between the two. That means the one that's actually above me insulates me from that and absorbs what's remaining of the insulation. I have the greatest amount of shade from the sun possible in that small area. I can stretch out under there, I can sit under there. Where I learned this was an old desert rat that spent a lot of time in the California deserts and stuff like that, working for companies where he had to go out and work on electrical boxes and stuff that were along a highway or something like that. And he had to set up some sort of shade to get out of the sun. This was the trick he learned. And when I got out in West Texas back in the early 80s and was putting up military radars and stuff like that, I adopted doing this whenever I was going to be here for the next several hours wiring this up. I carried me 2 tripods and some stakes to get me out of that unrelenting, merciless sun and give me an opportunity to do what I had to do, because I have to be here. There is no other shade. I got to be here. I had to create my own shade. Hope this gives you some ideas, guys. Please leave any questions or comments below. And as always, thank you very much for supporting my channel. Till next time, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.